The latest. Thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all from the bottom of my heart. I say thank you and always keep the energy coming. It is what fuels this channel. Family, pull up a chair, sit with me under the shade of this great cashew. For the wind from the east, from the hills of Addis Ababa, is carrying a message that has set the world on fire. February 14, 2026, a voice from Ethiopia did the unthinkable. Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy, stood before our leaders at the 39th African Union Summit in Ethiopia. She didn't come with the usual soft lies or the polished marks of diplomacy. She came with a roar that has unmasked the shadow of exploitation. Titans, listen to the silence before the storm. In the heart of Ethiopia, where the bones of our ancestors rest, the modern world just faced a reckoning. Usually when a European leader comes to the AU, they come to lecture. They come to tell us how to vote, how to think, and how to beg. But on the 14th, the script was flipped. Giorgia Meloni stood at the podium and did what no G7 leader has dared to do. She named the beast. She spoke of the death trap. She spoke of the predatory shadows that have kept Africans walled in a cage for centuries. Why will a leader from the West admit the game is rigged? Is this a genuine hand of friendship? Or is the West finally realizing that the African lion is no longer sleeping? This is Addis Ababa bombshell.
The word cooperation comes from the Latin cooperare, to work with. True cooperation, that is, never sees an active and a passive subject, but exists only in a relation between equals, a relation in which the specificities of each one are indispensable for achieving a common goal. If you look down on someone, you cannot cooperate with them. If you want to plunder their resources, you are not cooperating with them. Even if you just want to give charity, you cannot call it cooperation, for cooperation is another thing. And what Italy wants to do is to cooperate. Presidents, prime ministers, authorities, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to be here with you today. And I would like to express my heartfelt thanks once again to President Yusuf and President Lorenzo, as well as to all of you for this historic opportunity offered to Italy. The invitation to participate in the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union, the forum in which this organization discusses its fundamental political choices and determines the strategic direction of the continent, is a recognition that can only make Italy proud and that will Italy accept with respect and a sense of responsibility. It is a demonstration of trust that we will not disappoint. I have the honor to lead a nation that has in its DNA characteristics that historically make it a respected and valued partner. Propensity for dialogue, capacity for discussion, respect for others before anything else. A nation that has built part of its identity and its foreign policy on the profound meaning of a world that in times as unstable and unpredictable as ours can be the key to charting the course. And that word is cooperation. The word cooperation comes from the Latin cooperare, to work with. True cooperation, that is, never sees an active and a passive subject, but exists only in a relation between equals, a relation in which the specificities of each one are indispensable for achieving a common goal. If you look down on someone, you cannot cooperate with them. If you want to plunder their resources, you are not cooperating with them. Even if you just want to give charity, you cannot call it cooperation, for cooperation is another thing. And what Italy wants to do is to cooperate. Yesterday, together with many of you, we attended the second Italy-Africa Summit, the first ever to be held on this continent. I would like to thank the Ethiopian Prime Minister, my friend Abiy Ahmed, and the leaders of the African Union for their hospitality and cooperation in organizing the event. In that context, we discussed what we can do to further strengthen and consolidate one of the most concrete outcomes of this idea of cooperation, which is the Mattei Plan for Africa. The investment plan that Italy has implemented in various nations of the continent in areas ranging from infrastructure to agriculture, from health to training. This is a strategy that we have built together, because we do not conceive of the Mattei Plan as an Italian plan for Africa, but as Italy's contribution to your agenda, with a particular focus on this year on water-related projects. It is an open platform for putting our know-how, our technologies, our investments at the service of the objectives that the African Union has set out in Agenda 2063, starting with the creation of a continental free trade area that is integrated and prosperous. This is an ambitious goal which we will support and which will require efficient, secure, and fast economic interconnections in order to be achieved. Like the Lobito corridor, the railway and infrastructure backbone that will connect African markets to global ones and bring people, ideas, and economies closer together. A strategic project that sees Italy at the forefront, together with the United States and the European Union. In short, the Mattei Plan is a comprehensive strategy that generates concrete benefits for our peoples and aims to continually expand its scope, relying on the irreplaceable contribution of major United Nations agencies, and I want to thank the Secretary General Antonio Guterres, but also the World Bank, the African Development Bank, and many other partners who increasingly share our vision. 2 years ago in Rome, we set out the course together. And in recent years, we have followed it with consistency and determination, adding a new piece to the mosaic each time and bringing new nations on board every year. We have done so on many fronts, starting with what I consider to be crucial for building a true free Africa capable of determining its own destiny, addressing the issue of debt. We wanted to chart a course on this issue as well. Therefore, Italy has decided to launch a vast program to convert the debt of African nations, which includes among its main points the complete transformation of the debt of the most fragile and vulnerable countries into investments, and the strengthening of the contribution to the World Bank's AIDA funds. Similarly, we've introduced specific debt suspension clauses into our bilateral loans, allowing African nations affected by extreme weather events to free up fiscal space to help their population and rebuild essential infrastructures. These are choices based on justice and responsibility, which are crucial for freeing up resources that are vital for development and for assuring peace and prosperity, including in those areas of the continent that are currently more affected than others by instability, insecurity, and serious humanitarian crises, such as neighboring Sudan and Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. But we also want our collaboration to be political at the multilateral level. We want to help strengthen the valuable work carried out daily by the African Union, ensuring greater consistency to the mediation activities carried out by the UN and the European Union and key international partners. We will continue to do our part because we are aware that the future of Italy and Europe also depends on a secure, prosperous, and peaceful Africa. It is often said in the many analyses of the troubled and complex times we are living in that history has started running again. This is true. And my opinion is that today it is running here. Africa is not a marginal chapter in this story, far from it. And those who do not understand this scenario risk being left behind. But those who understand this scenario see the reality. A continent with 1,000 peculiarities and 1,000 demands, some of which are very different from each other. A continent rich in resources, raw materials, and arable land, which can count on a decisive force in the age of knowledge, which is human capital. This is why Italy has focused much of its energy on training projects for young people, including in the field of artificial intelligence. In short, our point of view is that Italy and Europe cannot think about the future without taking Africa into proper consideration, because our future also depends on yours. Aware of this, Italy intends to continue to be a privileged bridge between Europe and Africa, making available the strength of its institutions, its great tradition of dialogue, and the expertise of its companies. We want to do this also to achieve another goal that we all consider momentous, to guarantee the men and women of this continent a freedom that has often been denied them, the freedom to choose to remain in their country, to contribute to its growth without being forced to leave it, often paying unscrupulous traffickers to risk their lives in an attempt to cross the Mediterranean. Those who believe that migration is necessary and indispensable are in fact acting selfishly. If young people leave their land and their people in pursuit of the promise of a better life, what will become of the history, culture, and existence of the country they have abandoned? These words are not mine, nor those of a political leader, but of a son who is proud of Africa and who holds Africa's future close to his heart, which is the Guinean Cardinal Robert Sarah. Clearly, in order to guarantee the right not to have to emigrate, it is necessary to offer concrete opportunities for training and work, to enhance human capital and improve the quality of education, invest in skills and educational systems, and create industrial partnership and joint ventures capable of generating stable, quality employment in the territories. This is our mission, which is being put into practice in the many initiatives that Italy is promoting, including together with the African Union. And what I would like to see today is in this solemn place dedicated to another great son of a free and proud Africa, Nelson Mandela, is a great alliance between us to put training, research, university, and innovation at the center of our common commitment. An alliance aimed not at taking away talent, but at multiplying it and building a model of development that respects people and values different identities. Presidents, prime ministers, dear friends, Pliny the Elder, one of the most famous historians of ancient Rome, said that something new always arises from Africa. So my wish for each of us is that something new may truly arise from today's meeting, something that no one expects or that many considered impossible. For impossible is usually the word that people without courage use. Something capable of astonishing the world and suddenly making everything we have seen so far seem trivial.
Meloni didn't just talk. She dropped a bombshell. She announced that Italy is launching a massive program to convert African debt into investment projects. Titans, think about the weight of those words. For decades, our nations have been forced to pay back billions in interest to foreign banks, while our schools go without books and our hospitals without medicine. It is a debt trap designed to keep us running in place. This is how best these people have manipulated the African for all these years. But we hope our leaders will act. The leaders will be like those in the Sahel. Only 3 nations in Africa taking their sovereignty into their own hands, and we are seeing everywhere shaking. Yet we have people who are still sitting down, holding on to the same system that is keeping the African poor and pointing fingers at the ones that are shaking and changing the narrative globally. What kind of a union is this? That talk, do nothing. She said debt cancellation is the only way to build a true free Africa capable of determining its own destiny. Introduce climate clauses to pause debt payment when disaster strikes. For the first time, a Western leader admitted that you cannot ask a mother to pay a debt while her house is under water from a flood she didn't cause. This is a crack in the colonial wall. And they are people who always speak the truth to their own people. Yet our leaders are still watching and doing the same things that these people always want us to be doing. And that is where we find it so difficult. If these same people are admitting, why is our leaders not supporting the Sahel? She spoke of the Mattei Plan, named after Enrico Mattei, a man who believed that Italy's strength was tied to Africans' strength. She declared that the era of paternalism and charity is dead. She called for a partnership of equals. But let's look at the suspense, family. Why now? Why is Italy leading this charge? Meloni was clear. Europe's future depends on African success. They aren't doing this just to be nice. They are doing it because the old world is crumbling. They see the alliance of the Sahel states standing up. They see the shift towards the east. They realize that if they don't stop the exploitation and plundering, they will be the ones left behind in the red dust of history. She shouted to the room, Africa is not a marginal chapter. She challenged the world to stop looking at Africa through the lens of poverty and start looking at it as the powerhouse of the future. Sahel is changing everything in the world when it comes to Africa. Yet African Union, the leaders in the democratic elected, are still sitting down pointing fingers and blaming Africans' problem on the Sahel leaders. But family, we are Titans. We don't just listen to the song, we check the singer. Meloni quoted African wisdom, no path is traced without encountering stones. The question for us today is, Are these stones being removed? Or are they being rearranged? UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres was right there with her, echoing the cry, "Stop the plundering of Africa." The world is finally hearing what the Pan-African movement has been saying for 60 years. The debt is a trap. The aid is a shackle. The exploitation is a crime. But the power to break it doesn't lie in the speech from Rome. It lies in the hands of the youth from Niamey to Addis Ababa. Meloni has opened the door, but it is we who must walk through it and reclaim our sovereignty. We are the only ones that can change the fate in Africa. No matter how other people talk, we have the key to our success. The wind is changing. When the darling of the West goes to the heart of Africa to tell the West to stop exploiting Africa, you know the revolution is here. What do you think? Is Meloni Mattei Plan the bridge to a new world? Or just a new way to keep us in the same orbit? Drop your comment below. The world is watching this channel to see what the Titans think. We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided we fall, and united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world, in Europe and in Italy.